I'm Tessa King, 34 years old, and 3 weeks ago, my entire family decided I was too emotional to handle the tech empire my grandmother built. They voted me out as CTO in a board meeting while I was presenting the breakthrough that would revolutionize our industry. What they didn't know was that I'd been quietly building something that would make their $2.8 billion company look like a corner store. Before we continue, let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe for stories about families who learn the hard way that genius doesn't run in bloodlines, it creates its own. The Kings weren't just any family from Atlanta. We were the Kings, a name that carried weight in technology circles across the South and beyond. Our family business, King Technologies, had been operating for nearly 60 years, starting with my grandmother Violet King, who built it from nothing in 1965 when black women couldn't even get business loans without a male cosigner. She started in her garage, repairing mainframe computers for local businesses, and turned that into one of the largest black-owned tech companies in America. I grew up in the shadow of that legacy, in our sprawling estate in Buckhead, surrounded by awards celebrating 3 generations of innovation. Photos lined the hallways showing grandmother Violet shaking hands with civil rights leaders and tech pioneers. My father, Marcus King, had expanded what she created, growing the company into a $2.8 billion enterprise specializing in cloud computing, enterprise software, and lucrative government contracts. Our family dinners weren't just meals, they were strategy sessions where deals worth millions were discussed over my mother's famous peach cobbler. From an early age, I showed an aptitude for technology that surprised everyone, including myself. While my cousins Camden and Nia were playing video games, I was building my own computers and writing code that could optimize our household systems. By age 12, I was already asking questions about machine learning algorithms that sometimes stumped my father's lead engineers. This created an uncomfortable dynamic that would follow me into adulthood, being the smartest person in the room while everyone treated me like I was still learning my multiplication tables. Despite graduating top of my class from MIT with a double major in computer science and artificial intelligence, followed by an MBA from Stanford, my family still saw me as the little girl who needed guidance. When I joined King Technologies at 26, my father placed me under the supervision of my cousin Camden, who had barely scraped through his business classes at Georgia State and couldn't code his way out of a paper bag. "You need to understand how we do things in the real world," my father explained, patting my shoulder in that condescending way that made my skin crawl. "Camden has been here longer and knows our clients." Camden had been there exactly 11 months longer and spent most of his time playing golf with potential clients while I did the actual technical work. Over the next 8 years, I quietly became the company's most valuable technical asset. My cloud infrastructure designs reduced client costs by an average of 40% while improving performance metrics across the board. The AI-powered analytics systems I developed brought in over $200 million in new government contracts. Clients specifically requested me for their most complex projects, though my father often took credit for my team's innovations in board meetings and industry conferences. What no one in my family knew was that I had been building something revolutionary in secret. While they spent weekends at the lake house in North Georgia, I was converting an old warehouse in Atlanta's Old Fourth Ward into a state-of-the-art AI research facility. While they bought luxury cars and took European vacations, I was quietly recruiting the brightest minds from Google, Apple, and OpenAI with competitive packages and equity stakes in something that would change everything. For 4 years, I had been developing Quantum Mind AI, a breakthrough general artificial intelligence system that could reason, code, research, and innovate independently. My small team of 23 engineers worked under strict NDAs, funded by my personal savings and eventually by a stealth Series A that brought in $500 million from Silicon Valley venture capitalists who understood what we were building. The family business meetings were held monthly in the mahogany-paneled conference room of our downtown Atlanta headquarters. I would present detailed technical analyses and growth projections, only to have my uncle Sterling interrupt with statements like, "That's all very theoretical, but what does your father think about practical implementation?" My aunt Roxanne, who had married into the family and worked her way up to CFO through politics rather than performance, would often pull me aside afterward with well-meaning but patronizing advice. "Honey, you need to learn to present your ideas in ways that don't make the men feel threatened. Your grandmother succeeded by making others feel smart, not by showing off how much smarter she was. The irony wasn't lost on me. Grandmother Violet had built this company by being 10 times smarter than everyone else in the room and never apologizing for it. My cousin Nia, who ran marketing despite having no technical understanding of our products, had developed a particular talent for dismissing my presentations. All these algorithms and technical jargon just confuse people, she would say, rolling her eyes. Our clients want solutions they can understand, not science fiction. Meanwhile, Camden had mastered the art of taking credit for my work without contributing any actual value. He would sit in on client calls I had prepared for, then spend the next week telling everyone how he had guided the technical strategy and managed the client relationship. Despite all this, I remained loyal to the family vision. I believed that eventually my contributions would be recognized and that I could help evolve King Technologies into something even greater than what Grandmother Violet had built. I continued pouring my skills into growing the family legacy while secretly developing technology that would revolutionize the entire industry. By my 34th birthday, Quantum Mind AI had achieved something unprecedented in the artificial intelligence field. We had created a system that didn't just process information or follow programmed responses, it actually reasoned, learned, and created new solutions independently. Tech giants were already circling, though they didn't know the identity of the company behind the breakthrough. Government agencies had quietly begun testing our systems for applications that would transform everything from cybersecurity to space exploration. Some might call it strategic patience. Others might call it the ultimate backup plan. Either way, everything was about to change. The quarterly board meeting 3 weeks ago started like any other. The entire extended family gathered in our glass-walled conference room, with my father presiding from the head of our custom-made table. I had prepared what I believed would be my most important presentation ever, a comprehensive plan for integrating artificial intelligence across all King Technology services, potentially tripling our company value within 5 years. As I set up my presentation, my cousin Camden strolled in 20 minutes late, carrying nothing but a coffee cup and his phone, which he didn't bother to put away. "Sorry I'm late," he announced, not sounding sorry at all. "I was just finishing up a call with the Richardson Industries team." The Richardson account was actually my client, a relationship I had built over 3 years of technical consultations and custom solutions. Camden had attended exactly one introductory meeting as an observer. My father beamed. "No problem, son. Client relationships always come first. Why don't you update us on how that's progressing before Tessa starts with her technical presentation?" Just like that, the first 25 minutes of my meeting were devoted to Camden taking credit for my work with Richardson Industries. I sat quietly, watching family members nod approvingly as he misrepresented key aspects of the AI-powered inventory system I had spent months developing and implementing. When it was finally my turn to present, I had barely gotten through my introduction when Uncle Sterling cleared his throat loudly, a signal I knew meant he was about to shut down the discussion. "This all seems unnecessarily complicated," he said, not bothering to hide his dismissive tone. "King Technologies has succeeded for 60 years by keeping things practical and reliable. Our clients trust us because we don't chase every new trend that comes along." My Aunt Roxanne nodded vigorously. "Exactly. All this artificial intelligence talk sounds risky. What happens when these systems break down? What about liability issues? We can't jeopardize our reputation on unproven technology." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. Actually, our client satisfaction surveys consistently show they're looking for more sophisticated technological solutions. The industry has evolved significantly, and companies that don't adapt to AI integration are already losing market share to competitors who embrace these innovations. My father tapped his pen against the table, a habit that meant he was losing patience. "Tessa, theory is one thing, but we operate in practical realities here. This isn't some research lab where we can experiment with clients' livelihoods." "This isn't just theory," I replied, pulling up my next slide. "I've already implemented AI-powered systems for 3 of our major accounts as pilot programs. Richardson Industries alone has seen a 45% improvement in operational efficiency and a 30% reduction in costs over 6 months." There was a moment of stunned silence before my father responded, his voice sharp. You implemented experimental systems without board authorization? That's not how we operate, Tessa. I felt heat rising in my cheeks. I discussed pilot programs with you 4 months ago. You approved testing new approaches for underperforming accounts to improve client retention. I certainly didn't authorize deploying unproven AI systems that could expose us to massive liability, he shot back, though we both knew he had barely listened during that conversation, more interested in the Hawks game playing on his phone. Camden jumped in, sensing an opportunity. I actually have a more conservative approach we might consider. He had nothing prepared, no slides, no data, not even notes. Yet for the next 30 minutes, the family listened attentively as he essentially repackaged strategies I had proposed 2 years ago, stripping out the innovative elements that made them actually effective. Now, that's the kind of practical thinking clients expect from King Technologies, my father said approvingly when Camden finished. Let's develop Camden's approach for the next quarter and table Tessa's AI proposal for further study. After the meeting, I tried to speak with my father privately in his corner office, surrounded by photos of him with politicians and industry leaders. Dad, I'm concerned about the direction we're taking. The approach Camden outlined has significant technical gaps that could actually harm client operations and leave us vulnerable to competitors who are already implementing AI solutions. My father was checking stock prices on his monitor. Tessa, you're too caught up in the technical details. This business was built on relationships and proven methodologies, not experimental technology and theoretical improvements. But the data clearly shows. He finally looked up from his screen. You know what your problem is. You've never fully trusted the King way of doing business. Always thinking your fancy degrees make you smarter than people who've been successful in the real world for decades. I was stunned. That's not true. I've dedicated my entire career to this family company. And we appreciate that, sweetheart. But sometimes you need to remember that you're still learning how things work outside of textbooks and research papers. I was 34 years old, managing over $800 million in client accounts, with a track record that had helped quadruple the company's value during my tenure. And I was still learning how things work. As I left his office, I overheard my Aunt Roxanne talking to my cousin Nia in the break room. Tessa's presentations give me a headache, Roxanne was saying. All those charts and technical jargon, like she's trying to make the rest of us feel stupid. Marcus needs to rein her in before clients start thinking we're all talk and no practical solutions. Nia agreed. The girl doesn't understand our company culture. Never has. All that MIT education just made her think she's better than everyone else. I quietly stepped away, a cold realization settling in my stomach. For the first time, I allowed myself to acknowledge what part of me had always known I would never be fully respected in this family business, no matter what I contributed or achieved. That evening, rather than joining the family for our usual post-meeting dinner, I drove to my warehouse facility in the old Fourth Ward. I walked through the climate-controlled server room where Quantum Mind's processors hummed quietly, processing terabytes of data and evolving its reasoning capabilities in real time. My team of engineers looked up from their workstations, and I saw something in their eyes I never saw in family meetings. Genuine respect for what we were building together. I wasn't planning anything specific that night, but something fundamental had shifted. I knew I needed to be prepared for whatever came next. The following week brought an escalating series of dismissals and slights. In a client presentation, my father interrupted my explanation of a cybersecurity protocol to translate it into plain English, essentially oversimplifying my recommendations to the point where they would be ineffective. During a staff training session, Camden presented one of my neural network models as his own innovation. My Aunt Roxanne accidentally, or perhaps not so accidentally, left me off the email chain for a crucial discussion about next quarter's strategic priorities. Then came the moment that changed everything. I arrived early at the office on a Tuesday morning to prepare for our most important client meeting of the year, a renewal negotiation with the Department of Defense worth $150 million annually. This was an account I had personally managed for 4 years, developing custom AI-powered threat detection systems that had significantly improved their cybersecurity capabilities. As I approached the conference room at 8:45 for our 9 o'clock meeting, I could see through the glass walls that the meeting was already in progress. My father, Camden, Uncle Sterling, and two other family members were sitting across from Defense Department officials, presenting slides from the deck I had created. I stood frozen in the hallway, watching my father explain technical systems he didn't understand while Camden nodded along knowingly. The clients appeared engaged, asking questions that my family members fumbled through with vague responses about cutting-edge methodologies and proven results. After the meeting concluded successfully, thanks to work I had done but wasn't present to defend, I discovered that leadership had also scheduled a strategic planning retreat for the following weekend at Uncle Sterling's lake house. Every member of the family executive team was invited except me. That night, I sat in my home office until 3 a.m., staring at my computer screen but not really seeing it. Years of memories cycled through my mind, every time my ideas had been dismissed only to be celebrated when someone else presented them, every extra hour I had worked to prove my worth, every innovation I had created for people who would never see me as their equal. Enough, I whispered to the empty room. Whatever happened next, I knew I was done being undervalued and overlooked. It was time for my family to learn what I was really capable of. 2 days later, on a Thursday afternoon that would change everything, my phone buzzed with a notification from our family WhatsApp group. My father had created this group 3 years ago as a more efficient way to communicate about business matters, though it mostly served as a platform for sharing golf scores and vacation photos. The message from my father read, "After extensive discussion among senior leadership, the board has decided it would be best if Tessa steps back from client-facing responsibilities to focus on back-end technical support. Recent feedback indicates clients prefer our traditional relationship-based approach over technical presentations that can be overwhelming. This isn't permanent, just a realignment with the King Technologies culture that has made us successful." I stared at the screen, watching responses appear one by one. Uncle Sterling, smart decision. About time. Aunt Roxanne, agreed. Sometimes difficult choices are necessary for the good of the company. Camden, happy to take over her client relationships during the transition. Cousin Nia, this will definitely improve our client communications. 2 other family members added their support. No one objected. No one asked what client feedback they were referring to, which was telling since I personally managed our client satisfaction surveys and knew our ratings were at an all-time high. I felt an odd sense of calm wash over me as I watched this unfold. After 8 years of trying to prove my worth, after all the revenue I had generated, after all the technological advances I had brought to the company, it came down to this: a group text removing me from my role without even the courtesy of a private conversation. I waited exactly 23 minutes before responding, during which time several more supportive messages appeared from various family members, including some who had previously claimed to be my advocates during office disagreements. Finally, I typed, "Understood. I respect the board's decision and will step back from all King Technologies operations effective immediately. I'll also be withdrawing my investment from the family fund to avoid any conflicts of interest. Wishing everyone continued success." Short, professional, and containing implications they didn't yet understand. I put my phone on silent and placed it face down on my desk. Then I opened my laptop and began executing a plan I had hoped never to need. First, I logged into the King Family Investment Fund, where I had contributed $400 million over the years, nearly 35% of the fund's total assets. As a major contributor and co-administrator, I had full access to initiate withdrawals. The process was surprisingly straightforward: a few clicks to withdraw my entire contribution plus my proportional share of growth, totaling $485 million. Next, I sent a formal resignation email to the King Technologies board, copying our corporate attorney and documenting my immediate departure from all company roles and responsibilities. Then came the move that would change everything. I activated the public announcement I had prepared months earlier but hoped never to use. At 4:47 p.m., TechCrunch published an exclusive story with the headline, "Stealth AI Startup Founded by King Technologies heiress secures $500 million Series A, developing revolutionary general AI system." The article revealed that Quantum Mind AI, led by former King Technologies CTO Tessa King, had been operating in stealth mode for 4 years, developing breakthrough artificial intelligence technology that had already been quietly tested by Fortune 500 companies and government agencies. The piece included quotes from venture capitalists describing the technology as a fundamental leap forward in AI capabilities and noted that multiple tech giants were reportedly in acquisition discussions valued at over $3 billion. By 5:15 p.m., King Technologies stock had dropped 12% in after-hours trading as investors realized the company had just lost its most valuable technical asset and that a family member was now positioned as a potential competitor with superior technology. My phone started buzzing around 6:30 p.m. with an avalanche of notifications. I glanced at the screen once to see dozens of missed calls and messages from various family members, but I didn't read them. Instead, I drove to my favorite restaurant, ordered a bottle of excellent wine, and gave myself permission to enjoy my evening while my family discovered the magnitude of what they had just done. At exactly 9:42 p.m., my father's ringtone cut through the restaurant's ambient noise. I declined the call and turned off my phone completely. I slept remarkably well that night. When I turned my phone back on at 7 a.m. the next morning, I had to wait several minutes for all the notifications to load: 73 missed calls, 156 text messages, 67 WhatsApp messages, 22 voicemails. I made coffee before listening to any of them. The first voicemail, from 9:43 p.m. Tessa, it's Dad. Call me immediately about this news article. There must be some misunderstanding. The second, from 10:18 p.m. Tessa, this is completely inappropriate. Whatever point you're trying to make, blindsiding the family through media isn't acceptable. Call me back now. The messages grew increasingly frantic through the night. By the 2:33 a.m. voicemail, my father's voice had lost its anger and held naked panic. The stock is in free fall. 3 major clients have called asking about our AI capabilities. The Defense Department wants an emergency meeting about contract implications. You need to call me back right now. The most recent message, from 6:15 a.m., was different. My father's voice was quiet, uncertain. Tessa, I don't understand what's happening. Your company, the technology you've built, it's exactly what we needed at King Technologies. Why didn't you tell us? The board is meeting in an hour to discuss damage control. Please call me back. Please. I finished my coffee, took a long shower, and dressed in my favorite power suit, deep navy blue that had always given me confidence. Only then did I send a single text message to my father. I'm honoring the board's decision. You asked me to step back from King Technologies, and I have. I've also withdrawn my personal investment as mentioned. My team at Quantum Mind will be happy to discuss potential partnerships with King Technologies through proper business channels. Within seconds, my phone rang. I declined the call and sent one more message. I'll be available for a business meeting Monday at 10 a.m. at the Quantum Mind offices. The address is 4847 Memorial Drive. Please bring whoever you feel should represent King Technologies' interests. Then I turned off notifications and prepared to enjoy my weekend, knowing that across town, my family was just beginning to understand what they had lost. What they didn't know was that the TechCrunch article had only revealed a fraction of what Quantum Mind had achieved. Over the weekend, 3 more major publications ran features about the breakthrough AI technology, each revealing additional capabilities that sent shockwaves through the tech industry. The Wall Street Journal reported that Quantum Mind's AI had successfully designed and tested new pharmaceutical compounds, potentially revolutionizing drug discovery. Wired revealed that the system had been collaborating with NASA engineers on autonomous spacecraft navigation systems. Forbes disclosed that major financial institutions were already using Quantum Mind's technology for fraud detection and market analysis. By Sunday evening, acquisition offers had reached $4.2 billion, with Google, Microsoft, and Amazon leading a bidding war for technology that could reshape their entire industry approach. Through notifications I couldn't completely silence, I caught glimpses of the family meltdown. Preview snippets showed the escalating panic. Uncle Sterling, the Defense Department is threatening to review all our contracts. Aunt Roxanne, our stock is down 23%. The board is demanding explanations we don't have. Camden, how are we supposed to know she was building something like this? My mother, Tessa, honey, please just talk to us. We can figure this out. By Sunday night, the tone had shifted completely from outrage to desperation. The family had apparently begun to understand that this wasn't just about hurt feelings or family politics, this was about the survival of King Technologies in an industry that was evolving faster than they had realized. Monday morning arrived with unprecedented clarity. I drove to the Quantum Mind facility through Atlanta traffic, arriving at our converted warehouse that now hummed with world-changing technology. My team had already assembled in our main conference room, ready to support whatever came next. At 9:47 a.m., our security system alerted me to vehicles approaching. Through the cameras, I watched a caravan of luxury cars pull into our parking lot. They had brought everyone: my father, mother, Uncle Sterling, Aunt Roxanne, Camden, Nia, our corporate attorney, and, most surprisingly, my 89-year-old grandmother Violet, who rarely left her home anymore. At exactly 10 a.m., I met them at our front entrance. My father stood at the front of the group, but for the first time in my memory, he looked uncertain, almost diminished. Behind him, the rest of the family wore expressions ranging from Sheffield to barely concealed desperation. "Come in," I said simply, leading them through our facility. I could see their shock as they took in what I had built: state-of-the-art laboratories, rows of quantum processors, workstations where brilliant engineers developed technology that would define the next decade. This wasn't some garage startup, it was a world-class operation that rivaled anything in Silicon Valley. We gathered in our main conference room, where floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over the Atlanta skyline. I remained standing at the head of the table while my family took seats, a reversal of every family meeting we had ever held. "Before we begin," I said, "I want to be clear about the context of this meeting. You're here as potential business partners, not as family members expecting special treatment. Quantum Mind AI is an independent company with shareholders, legal obligations, and strategic priorities that don't necessarily align with King Technologies' interests." My father nodded slowly. "Tessa, we understand. We're here because we realize we made a mistake. A significant mistake." Grandmother Violet, who had been silent until now, spoke in the strong voice that had commanded boardrooms for decades. "Child, show us what you've built." For the next hour, I walked them through Quantum Mind's capabilities. I demonstrated AI systems that could write complex code, analyze massive datasets, and solve problems that would take human experts weeks to tackle. I showed them contracts with Fortune 500 companies, partnerships with government agencies, and research collaborations with major universities. The silence in the room was profound as the implications sank in. This wasn't just about a family business dispute, it was about technology that could transform entire industries. Finally, my father spoke. "The Defense Department contract, they're threatening to put it out for rebid because they want to ensure they have access to the most advanced cybersecurity AI available." "That makes sense," I replied. "Government agencies have a responsibility to use the most effective technology to protect national interests. Could Quantum Mind, would you consider competing for that contract?" I looked around the table at faces that had dismissed me just days earlier. Quantum Mind could certainly bid on government contracts. Our AI systems are already being used by several federal agencies for various applications. Uncle Sterling leaned forward desperately. "Tessa, what would it take to bring this technology back to King Technologies? To reunify the family companies?" I had been waiting for this question. That would require a fundamental restructuring of King Technologies. Quantum Mind's shareholders would need guarantees about technological independence, strategic autonomy, and leadership succession based on merit rather than family politics. Aunt Roxanne, who had spent years dismissing my technical expertise, now spoke with newfound respect. "What kind of restructuring?" I pulled up a presentation I had prepared but hoped never to need. Option 1. King Technologies could license Quantum Mind's AI systems for specific applications, paying standard commercial rates. Option 2. We could explore a strategic partnership where King Technologies handles traditional enterprise services while Quantum Mind focuses on AI development. Option 3. Quantum Mind could acquire King Technologies' government contracting division, integrating it into our operations. The room fell silent as they processed these options. Each one positioned me as an equal or superior partner rather than the subordinate family member they had tried to maintain. Camden, who had built his career on taking credit for my work, finally spoke. What about bringing you back as CTO with more authority? I shook my head. I'm already CEO of a company worth more than King Technologies' market cap. That conversation would need to be about partnership between equals, not about finding me a role in your family business. My mother, who had rarely participated in business discussions, reached across the table. Tessa, we're proud of what you've built. We didn't understand. Grandmother Violet's voice cut through the emotional moment. I built King Technologies when black women couldn't get business loans. I had to fight for every opportunity, every contract, every ounce of respect. She looked directly at me. You didn't just continue that fight, you won it in ways I never could have imagined. The weight of her words settled over the room. This wasn't just about business or family dynamics, it was about legacy, about taking the foundation she had built and transforming it into something even more powerful. My father cleared his throat. What would you need from us to make this work? I had thought about this moment for years, but the reality was more complex than I had anticipated. These weren't just business rivals, they were family members who had failed to recognize my worth but might now be ready to build something better together. First, acknowledgement that Quantum Mind is an independent company with equal standing. Second, a governance structure that ensures technical decisions are made by technical experts, not by committee consensus or family politics. Third, compensation and equity arrangements that reflect actual contributions rather than family hierarchy. I paused, looking around the table. But most importantly, cultural change. The dismissive attitudes, the credit-taking, the assumption that relationship management matters more than technical excellence, all of that ends immediately. Over the next 3 hours, we outlined a potential partnership structure. King Technologies would maintain its traditional enterprise services while partnering exclusively with Quantum Mind for AI integration. I would serve as Chief Technology Officer for the combined operation while remaining CEO of Quantum Mind. Family members would retain leadership roles based on demonstrated competence rather than birthright. The negotiation wasn't easy. Uncle Sterling struggled with giving up decision-making authority over technical matters he didn't understand. Camden had to accept that his sales-focused approach needed to integrate with advanced technical solutions. Aunt Roxanne required detailed financial projections to feel comfortable with the partnership structure. But throughout the discussion, something had fundamentally changed. For the first time in my professional life, my family was negotiating with me rather than dictating to me. They were asking for my expertise rather than dismissing it. As the meeting concluded, my father lingered after the others had left. Tessa, I owe you an apology. Not just for last week, but for years of not seeing what you were capable of. I appreciate that, I replied. But apologies need to be followed by actions. This partnership will only work if the respect is consistent, not just when it's convenient. He nodded, looking older but somehow more genuine than I had seen him in years. Your grandmother always said the best leaders aren't the ones who preserve what exists, they're the ones who build what comes next. 6 months later, the King Quantum partnership had exceeded every projection. Our integrated AI services had attracted clients from across the tech industry, generating revenue growth of 340% compared to the previous year. Government contracts that King Technologies might have lost to competitors were instead expanded, as agencies recognized the technological advantage our AI systems provided. More importantly, the family dynamic had evolved. My contributions were not only recognized but actively celebrated. Team meetings focused on technical merit and business results rather than family politics. Camden had actually become an effective sales leader once he learned to accurately represent our AI capabilities instead of oversimplifying them. The most satisfying change came during our quarterly board meeting last month. As I presented our latest AI breakthrough, a system that could predict and prevent cybersecurity attacks before they occurred, the room was completely silent, focused entirely on the implications of what I was describing. When I finished, Uncle Sterling was the first to speak. This technology could revolutionize cybersecurity for every industry. What do we need to do to bring it to market as quickly as possible? No dismissals. No oversimplifications. No suggestions that we keep things practical. Just recognition that breakthrough innovation requires breakthrough thinking. After the meeting, Grandmother Violet pulled me aside in her slow but determined way. "Child, you did something I never could. You forced them to see you not as family, but as an equal. That's not just good business, that's changing the world." The journey from being undervalued to being essential hadn't come easily. It required me to build leverage, to be willing to walk away, and ultimately to force a confrontation I would have preferred to avoid. But the outcome wasn't just better for me, it was better for everyone involved, including the clients and communities we serve. The most important lesson wasn't about technology or business strategy. It was simpler and more universal. Respect isn't automatically granted based on family ties, academic credentials, or even exceptional performance. Sometimes it must be claimed by demonstrating that you have options, that you bring unique value, and that you're prepared to succeed with or without the recognition of people who should have supported you all along. Have you ever had to build something in secret just to prove your worth to people who should have believed in you from the beginning? Have you had to force family or colleagues to recognize your contributions by showing them what life looks like without you? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more tales about finding your voice, building your leverage, and never accepting less than you deserve. And remember, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply build something so impressive that people have no choice but to take you seriously. Thank you for listening, and remember that your value doesn't depend on other people's ability to recognize it. Sometimes the best response to being underestimated is simply to become unstoppable.